Jungle Farm is a century family farm in central Alberta. From unique flower pots to pick your own strawberries to fall family entertainment, there is something for everyone on this farm. The Staples family is truly passionate about growing tasty local fruits and vegetables and bringing them to your dinner plate. And today, in our Homegrown series, we are pleased to visit with Leona Staples to hear how it all got started. Thank you for joining us today, Leona. It's a pleasure to have you. When I think of ag adventure, I definitely think of the Jungle Farm. I have been to your farm. I've been on a tour. Of course, I bought your amazing products. So I'm excited that you are able to take some time today to talk to us a little bit about the farm. Can you tell us about a little bit about the history of the farm? How did it get started? There had to be a family story, I guess, if you will.
Yes, for sure. So my farm, I'm blessed to be on the farm that my great-grandfather started in 1897. So he is definitely one of those pioneers that journeyed across Canada and homesteaded when that was a thing to be had. And so he came to this piece of land. It has been continuously farmed by the Quantz family, which is my maiden name, since 1897. My great-grandfather and grandmother had two sons, and one went to war and was killed in the war. And so my grandfather inherited the farm. And at that time, that's how it worked. I mean, if you were a boy, you were going to farm. And so whether my grandfather wanted to or not, that wasn't really a choice available to him. Mm-hmm. My dad, I always said, had dirt running through his veins. My dad was a true farmer. He loved the dirt and the animals and just the whole world of that. And I was blessed to be raised on this farm and to grow up with, picking Saskatoons and raspberries through the bushes and bringing in the milk cow. And I can't say I was a true farmer. I can't say that I was saying, oh, that's what I want to do when I come home. But I still had a real appreciation, I guess, for agriculture. And because of that and my 4-H upbringing, I went into my studies as a district home economist and was able to work with agriculture and producers and really solidified my love for agriculture and the appreciation of the hard work that goes into it. I don't know that I truly understand it till we came home. So my husband and I had opportunities to work a few other places, and then we both came back. We came back to my family farm in 1996 when my mom and dad were kind of ready to turn over the reins of that paperwork, is what my dad said. I want to do, the farming part, the be out on the tractor and look after the cows, but I am done with that kind of administrative part. So that's when we came home with our two small boys. We had the opportunity to join Innisfil Growers the year we came home in 96. And Innisfil Growers is a group of 5 farms, and each of us grows different things, but we marketed them as a cooperative through the farmers markets throughout central Alberta. And they asked us if we would join and grow strawberries. So the very first year we planted the strawberries in 96. 97, we sent the first to the farmers market, and we had people show up on our doorstep to pick. And that's where our story really changed. We still are with Innisfil Growers, an important part of our business, but we then opened our farm to the public and we learned a lot. So that we toured lots of farms locally in Alberta to learn what was going on about people who are directly marketing to the consumer. And then we started to move beyond that. So we go to the North America Strawberry Growers tours. We go to North America Farm Direct Marketing Associations tours. So we kind of expanded out, and we've just created this huge network of individuals who do like-minded things that we can beg, borrow, and steal their ideas from.
There's so much happening at your farm, which I just think is amazing, because when a lot of people, of course, think about farming, we've got, thousands of acres of wheat or canola or barley or whatever it is you're growing. And I'm taking some notes as you're talking, because I think it's interesting. Like when you had said back in 1996, you had consumers show up on your door and looking for strawberries. And so that's, I mean, we're in, 2021, and we still have, masses of people showing up on your door looking for strawberries. So it was that consumer demand way back then. So prior to that, when the farm was getting started, Leona, what was the predominant commodity? Was it always the berries and the vegetables, or were we?
No, it wasn't. So with my great grandfather, of course, when they came and they're homesteading, my dad always said, even my grandparents apparently had a menagerie of animals, so they could have their beef and their chickens and their eggs and their pork. And so it kind of sounded like they had a little bit of everything. My great grandfather was actually a trained vet from the University of Guelph, which would have been a very unusual thing. His degree was like, it's not the level sheet that it is now. It was this big, massive, and I wish we still had it, but the bats ate it.
Oh,
The advantage of being in the old farmhouse, right? And so he was a vet and had a real interest in horses, and he actually trained horses and went down into Kentucky and worked down there before he came out west. So he had a very interesting background, but he had lots of animals. They were breaking the land because that was part of the protocol of the Homesteading Act, was that there would be the advancement of agriculture, and of course he had to feed his animals, so he needed to grow grains and grasses and hays and stuff. And then by the time we got to my grandfather, of course, the land would have basically been broken, and so he was just traditional grain and animals, but even then they had quite a few. But my parents only had cattle, and we did have one milk cow to feed the family, and grain. And then when we came back to the farm, we had cattle. When BSc hit, we made the decision, because our boys were young but still had not shown real interest in the animals, to get out. It was sort of like when you're at 50 animals, do you stay or do you go? And we decided to get out. And the vegetables was growing at the time. Always my grandmother, my mom had huge gardens, but it wasn't something they sold. And I think that was one thing I really took home from my mom, is when she came, she helped a lot with us on the farm when the kids were young, and childcare is an issue on a farm, and
yeah.
out and either help with our gardens or help with the kids. And she said, I can now see I actually added value to the farm. Because I think sometimes as a farm wife, although you go out and you help drive things and you whatever, sometimes I do believe that farm women really do not always see a true value in the raising of their children and the putting the food on the table and harvesting the garden and making the jam and preserves. But when I was putting a dollar value to all those things, she said, there was a real value to it. And I think that was a real pat on her back. And it should have always been. And not that my dad ever made her think otherwise. But that I worked with lots of farm women over the years with Alberta agriculture. And that was a common thought pattern, is, am I giving enough? And you think of what farm women did through the years of making farms work. Was amazing.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And now it's so treasured. I mean, it always has been, but we just didn't really put a spotlight on it. And I mean, farms couldn't run without everybody operating in their roles. And so it is, I mean, the wives, back in the day and even today, whether they're out, running the combines themselves nowadays, but they're, the heart of the operation, definitely. So then when you took over, you and your husband took over, you've got this, I mean, you've got an entrepreneurial spirit. And so you were looking at, some opportunities, and you definitely were, I would say, ahead of the curve, I think, because when you started to look at the eat local and connecting the food, it wasn't, sort of as top of mind as it is today back in 96. So you've taken, you took your education, you took your background, your love, and now you've got, you've got community gardens, you've got greenhouses, you've got farm visits, educational tours for kids, you've got pies and jams and crisps. And I mean, you've got a going farm, and you've got the whole family working. And it's such a wonderful story. that resonates with a lot of people, because it takes a lot of work. You know, let's not push that over to the side. It takes a lot of work to do what you guys are doing, and to watch your success is, you know, as a member of the ag community, I'm proud of the work that you guys are doing, because you know, there's a lot of stories too about you can't make it in agriculture. You know, it's tough times, and you found a niche. And let's talk a little bit about what you've seen with the Eat Local movement over the years. So of course we're in a pandemic, and a lot of support, but just, you know, in your words, back in 96 to where we are now, we've seen an increase, we're going to continue to see an increase. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, that's interesting you say that, because I just did a presentation and there was 3 points that I brought out. So when we came back in 96, we had lots of people coming to pick 10 baskets of strawberries, because they were freezing, they were canning, they were jamming, they were white, right? And those individuals are almost all gone. So now what we have is I have 10 families coming to get one basket, because they're coming for the experience. And when we started, we had all the fields right close to where we were selling. So you would go out and you would pick, and you'd come back in, and it was close. It was like running out to a garden, right? It was close. Whereas now I'm asking people to walk a quarter of a mile. And when we started having more and more fields of strawberries, we needed to move them. As with all agriculture, you need to rotate the land. But strawberries, they actually recommend an 8 to 10 year break before strawberries go back into that land. So you start rotations of 3-acre plots, and you need to have, you know, 10 of those plots. You have to start moving it around your farm, and we're fortunate to have a whole quarter section, so we can move it around the farm. But we were asking people to walk a quarter of a mile, and when we first started doing that, people looked at us like, there is nowhere that I'm doing that. And so we started driving, you know, with a tractor and wagon people out. But as we got more and more people, we were unable to do that. So people were willing to walk, because now from 96 to now, people are more active, and they have appropriate strollers to get kids in there, like with big wheels. And seniors are saying, I'm going to walk today anyways, so this gives me an opportunity. And then pandemic hits, and we can't take them on a wagon anyways. And I've got them in the farthest field that I could have them in as far as a strawberry patch goes, and they're having to walk it. And I never heard one person. Now, we had a few seniors that couldn't do it, and we just had a close patch that we gave them that option to. But majority, if this is the patch we're picking on, that's where you have to pick, and people just did. So that was one thing that we have really definitely seen. The ability and the willingness to walk to wherever it is totally, and not that they didn't have the ability in 96, but the willingness, I guess, wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
So now, absolutely, I'll walk. What, you want me to walk over? I'll do that. That's not a problem. So that's awesome. The other thing, when we started in 97, in reality, when people started showing up at the door, we then started thinking, well, what else could we do that while they're here that we could get them to also participate in? So we grew some potatoes. We did a few other items. There was zero interest. Like, you're wanting me to dig those potatoes? Like, I can dig those potatoes at home. Right? Why would I come here and dig those potatoes? And I wasn't getting other people. But now that I have 10 people instead of the one, they're all coming from places where maybe they don't have a garden. And they're all coming from a place, I shouldn't say all, but the majority are coming from a place with young children who actually want to do that experience. So the experience of strawberries, but they want to experience picking potatoes. I never knew potatoes was so much fun as when I had a lady from Calgary and her little girl were out picking, and they cheered every time they found a potato. Like, dig, and they find, woo! And it was just like, and I went, this is such joy to them to connect to their food. And so that willingness to see how broccoli grows, that they have to dig for carrots, that, you know, that what kohlrabi even is, how to use fennel, like they're open and interested in purple cauliflower and orange cauliflower. Like, it is, that has totally shifted where people are wanting, and now they're here, and I'm going to buy all my groceries. And sometimes when I see them walk out, I think, I don't think in 3 weeks you can eat all that vegetables, and that's not going to be fresh anymore. But then we try to share with them how they can put it away, whether they will or not. Of course, because comfort level of preserving is totally not there. So that connection to food in all sorts of forms has really come in to play. And the third thing that we noticed when we first started, we had people staying a little longer, so we were starting to offer them items, and drinks was one of them. People wanted to be able to have something that they could drink while they were here, a cold beverage. And so we were offering pops and water, but pops sold like hotcakes. Now, water. It is water. I will sell some pop, and I do have it in the cooler, but pop and or water and juice are the number. Like I see parents go over and say, you can choose a juice or you can choose a water. Like there isn't a choice, that they aren't giving their kids the choice of pop. And so our patterns of purchasing items have totally changed. So I mean, that's not really connected to the local movement, but just that health movement, that one.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of preserving. So I started many years ago. People asked me, and I offered classes, and I'd have a few people come to make jam or make pickles. But now my classes are full, and groups of families are booking in that, or guides will come and ask me if I could do it for their camps. You know, there's camping at Pine Lake, and can we come over and make jam with the girls? And it's awesome. That connection of how to preserve this great produce that you have has been lost. I was fortunate to have a mom who did those things, but many of my friends' moms didn't do those things. And so I could learn from my mom. Of course, that was part of my education, is that food safety component of it. So putting those two pieces together, we made a commercial kitchen and we're able to make those things on the farm. But now I can share that with other people. I have the commercial kitchen space, and I can take groups of people. Pandemic, unfortunately, wasn't something. So we did some of it online. I made it online and did YouTube videos that people could then do it at home. There's no reason people can't do it at home. It's just the confidence level to do it.
For sure. And we've seen that even with the work with Ag for Life that we're doing with the families and the gardening and back to the cooking. There, I mean, we're at home and we're spending time with the family, which is the bonus. If there's a bonus, a silver lining to all of this. And we are, we're getting back where, I mean, was it sourdough bread that took off like crazy? I mean, you couldn't, and buying yeast, you couldn't buy yeast or flour. So people were baking and experimenting. And, we're always, saying to people, it's okay to make mistakes, right? I mean, have some fun in the kitchen and then take the time to understand where your food comes from. And I think you had said, it's an experience. And I think that is the lessons, if we can make education an experience where you're out and your hands are dirty and whether you're cooking or you're in the garden and you're understanding that whole connection of the food system, then that's the magic. And you don't have to live on a farm to appreciate that. But it's interesting because you've also talked about the health and nutrition, and we've seen many changes over the years. And I always say, there is no health or nutrition without agriculture and good food. So, to take a moment and pause and really appreciate the hard work that, farmers and are doing, particular your family, we thank you for being part of the story. And I thank you so much for taking the time to reach out and visit with us today. Now, of course, we don't know what spring is going to bring, but do you have some plans for the farm opening the doors up if all goes well?
So we were very blessed that we were always able to be open. We did put in protocols, of course, on our farm. So 2020 was a year we could be open, and people were looking for something to do. Now we took away playground equipment and picnic tables and that kind of thing. We made one ways in and outs. We sanitized. We had staff all trained. Masks. So we had protocols for sure. But 2021, I got to say, I don't expect that I will see a lot of difference between 2021 and 2020 as far as our side of it. And some of the protocols we put in place are good cleaning protocols, good staff training protocols that we will continue on. Having this gate where we could talk to every individual person before they came in, because we had just an open area that people came in, and it was easy to miss people, and then they weren't aware of, where they needed to go, and they kind of missed out on the whole protocol of how to be on the farm. And they don't know how to be on a farm because they haven't been on a farm, right? So that was actually something that we will maintain into the future, no matter what that is happening. One of the things we did last year that was specifically for the pandemic is we put together garden boxes, and these were little starter plants that people could put into their garden, and that was a huge hit. And I've already had lots of people asking about that because they're already looking it forward, saying our summer looks similar. We may go on little trips close by, but we're not going anywhere. We're not going out for 4 months or 3 months, 2 months or 2 weeks, even somewhere where we can't do a garden. So we're going to have our garden, even if it's just a few plants in our flower beds, even if it's a few pots on our deck, even if, we're going to grow some things. So already there's been quite a bit of interest in that. And so I expect that whole gardening to interest to be continued. And, as a farmer, if I grew a tomato plant that made 5 tomatoes, that may not be very economically viable. But as a home gardener, to have 5 tomatoes ripen on your vine and be able to eat those and experience that right there in your yard is a huge success. Yes. And lots of people learned a lot with the gardening that they did last year. They learned maybe what that didn't work so well. They learned that broccoli take a lot more maintenance with bugs. There was lots of learnings to be had. That I look forward to seeing more people experimenting into that world. And I think that's a real great opportunity for people to really, really understand the growing of plants. And that's such a, if you have young children, there's nothing like growing a cherry tomato for them to see that ripen and to pick that. And the other trend that I really see in the world of food is these meal kits. And I think that there is a real opportunity for families to try new recipes, to try new things. Who knew that cauliflower rice would be a thing?
There you go.
Anya the other day with zucchini as the noodles, right?
Yes.
Like, never in a million years asked me in 1996 what I said I was doing these things. But I think real interest in that whole, like you say, the food, the nutrition, and the meal kits are interesting. But the concern I have is it's not local food that they're getting. It's packaged to the absolute. I actually got some to experience it. The food was excellent. It was easy to make. But I have this wonderful little app on my phone, and it's called Meal Line. And I just go in and I choose out 3 or 4 recipes. It creates a grocery list for me. I click off what I have in my house. It's high in vegetables because that's what I've chosen the option to be high in vegetables. And we try new things. It's less expensive because I'm just going to buy in the groceries. So I think there's some really good options out there where people could be still supporting that local, buying really fresh. So they're getting that great flavor that comes from being close to the where. But that trend of having things simple and easy, and they've been cooking at home. We've all been cooking at home a lot more than we normally would, and we want something different. We're tired of chili, the same thing over and over and over again. And so there's some really neat apps out there where they can still be getting the things they love, that fresh produce, the fresh meats, those local eggs, they can still be getting all those items and making their own meals by choosing what interests them off of some of these apps that are popping up. There's all sorts of things. And so I see more and more of that, that whole experimentation with food, which is great for any agriculture producer, whether they're selling directly to the consumer or not. But I also think for us, we're looking at things of how can we connect them even more? So is there a way that we can put in, we grow wheat because we have traditional grain crop. So is there a way we can put in and clean some of our grain and put in a grinder so people could actually grind some flour? That's keeping that step closer, right? Is there a way, I've seen some of these flow hives, and I don't know exactly how they work, but is there a way that we can have a flow hive where people could actually, fill their own jar of honey, wow. That connection. We have a few chickens. Is there a way that we can have the chickens available where the nest boxes roll out to the back so people could collect their own eggs? I mean, the opportunities are endless, and we've seen them all over North America, and we value those friendships and those farms that are willing to open up and show what's available. But people wanting to connect even closer to agriculture is here and will only grow. And of course, I understand big agriculture has so many biosecurity concerns and food safety concerns that the large egg producer cannot have people going along and picking eggs, right? They can't, but we need them to produce eggs to get them into our grocery stores. We need that. But I think as me and what we do can just make that little closer connection on many different fronts.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love that fact that you raised there that, the large conventional, farms, larger farms, they can't have the visitors just for many reasons. But, that doesn't mean we can't experience the farm when we come, to farms such as yourselves and enjoy the process of food and understanding food, and then use your imagination to then discover, boy, we have to feed the entire world. That I can see that where everybody's role and responsibility as farmers is. So that's fantastic. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today, and best of luck in 2021. I look forward to some strawberries, that's for sure. And we'll visit again soon, I hope.
Okay, sounds great. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.